Hello my dears, and welcome back to my tiny corner of the internet. Today is Wednesday, which means I've got another book talk video for you guys. So before I get into that, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone that left comments on my last video. I'm going to be answering that in Friday's video. I was absolutely blown away with how many of you had questions. I thought maybe I'd get one or two or, three. And you guys just totally came through, and I'm super excited to be answering those in the next video. Also, if you stay tuned till the end, I've got a little thing to mention, but we'll wait till we get there to worry about that. So let's just jump right in. The books I wanted to talk about today are historical fiction, and I don't know about you, but ever since I was 15 or 16 years old, I've just been obsessed with historical fiction. There's just something so fun about reading about the characters that we've heard so much about and learned so much about in school, put into these stories that are so vivid and so beautiful and so brought to life. There's just something about the kings and the queens and the earls and the dukes and the prince and the princesses, and it's all just so different from the lives that we live here today that it's so fun to read. So when I was pulling books from the shelves to make this video, I had a pretty big pile, so I'm actually going to split it up into two videos so as to not keep you here all day. So this is the first part, clearly, and then the second one I'm going to put up probably in a month or so. So let's just jump right into it. The first book I have here is called The Kingmaker's Daughter by Philippa Gregory. Now, Philippa Gregory is one of the more prolific historical fiction writers of the current time, I believe. She is constantly putting out books. In fact, just the other day I picked up her new one called The Taming of the Queen that now rests on the tippy top of my to-be-read pile. She's just fantastic. And her most famous book, perhaps, would be The Other Boleyn Girl, which is amazing and focuses on the lives of Anne and Mary Boleyn. And that was turned into a film 8 or 9 years ago now. And it starred Eric Bana and Natalie Portman and Scarlett Johansson and Jim Sturgis. And I would definitely recommend checking that out too if you get the chance. Now this is, again, also about two sisters. It's about Isabel and Anne Neville, the daughters of Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, who was also known as the Kingmaker. And I believe he served under 9 kings. Like, that's insane. That's a lot of in and out, if by the sounds of it. So it tells the story of the two sisters. Richard did not have a son for an heir, so he turned to using his daughters as pawns in political games, more or less. If you don't have a son, you need something to give you some leverage, and he used his daughters. So it's a very interesting look at the lives of these two sisters. Anne Neville, of course, is a very famous figure throughout history, and in fact one of the other books I'm going to be talking about today even has her as the main subject. So it's definitely interesting if you're interested in the life of Anne Neville at all, or Richard Neville. It's definitely one to check out. Now, next up I have another. This one's called The King's Daughter instead of The Kingmaker's Daughter, and this is by Christy Dickinson. Now, as with the last book, it focuses, and as do a lot of the books from this time period, where it focuses on the life of a daughter or a woman in general. She's usually used as some sort of negotiation piece, and this is no different. So it starts off like that. What I really did like about this book, though, is that a lot of books that are written about this specific time period are written about the Tudor family, which is great. I love reading about them. They're very, very interesting, but very rarely does a writer take a look at the early Stuarts, including James, and that's what this book does, and it's about James's daughter, Elizabeth of Scotland. Is that right? Elizabeth of Scotland. Elizabeth of Scotland. Now, one of the biggest criticisms I find that writers who write these types of books get is that there's extra fluff added that isn't in the historical texts, which I'm fine with. If I wanted no fluff, I'd just read the historical texts. But I like that. I like the buildup of the story. And then they also complain a bit about historical inaccuracies, which, you know, I get, but it doesn't really bother me. So there's that one. I would definitely give that a read if you are interested in that specific time period, like the mid to late 1400s. So next up is the book that also takes a look at the life of Anne Neville, and this is The Virgin Widow by Anne O'Brien. And I love this book. This was one of my favorites, I think. Like I said, again, Anne Neville, where this book tells the story, she has been exiled because of her father's treasons, and she is married off in an uneasy union to Edward of Lancaster. And this man is he's just the worst, and what makes it even more terrible is that he's ruled basically by his horrible mother. And Anne lives in this castle, and she is, she's just at the whim of everybody around her, and she's humiliated often and uncomfortably, and it's just horrible. And so while this is all going on outside, there are still, the wars are raging for the crown of England, and Edward goes to battle, and he is killed by Richard, who goes on to, of course, to be Richard III. And now Anne knows Richard from, you know, when she was younger, when she was a girl. She was actually betrothed to him twice before she was married to Edward. And, you know, she's saved by him. And it's a beautiful portrait of her life. It's a great one of his as well. I love reading about Richard III. I find him to be such an interesting character. And this book is absolutely beautiful. And it's so well written. And I can only imagine that it's difficult to write historical fiction because of the people that you have who are reading it just to kind of point out the mistakes you're making in the, you know, facts. But it's great. Definitely five out of 5 heavy English crowns. Yes. Now finally, we're going to move away from England here, and we are going to go to Manhattan in 1899. And we are going to talk about the Lux. Look at that cover. Look at that gown. So beautiful. So the Lux by Anna Godbersen. Now, I was sent this book years and years and years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, for review. It's a YA book, young adult, which is fine. I don't have anything against that in general. I liked the definition I read recently that young adult describes the age of the characters in the book, not necessarily the age of the readers. So that's good, because I know sometimes people go in with kind of a bit of a stigma thinking it's just for kids, but it isn't. So, again, we have sisters. I guess there's just something so interesting about reading and writing about sisters. It takes a look at the, you know, socialite world of Manhattan, 1899. They are rich, they are beautifully dressed, and they are behaving badly. But it's a fun tale. There's a love triangle. There's just beautiful story. I believe this became a series, but I never got around to picking up any of the other books. Not that I would have been against reading them. It's just, you know how it is. There's so many books to read and not enough time, and this just didn't make it to the top of my list to continue reading, but I really enjoyed it. And I think if you're wanting to dip your toe into historical fiction, this would be a good place to start. It's nice and light. If you're a teenager, you'd love this too. If not, maybe reading about, you know, Victorian and Elizabethan England isn't what you're interested in, but still you're a little interested in historical fiction. This is a great place to start. There's not a whole lot to say about it, except that it's a fun read. There's mystery, romance, jealousy, betrayal, all the good qualities of a historical fiction. There's a lot of humor in it, and I do love that a lot. So, that's it for historical fiction part 1. Now, if you've made it this far, congratulations to us both. what I want you to do is comment down below, have a tea with me, and the first person who does it will get this adorable little postcard in the mail. And if you watched my last tea talk video, you will have seen this, but it's filled with Earl Grey tea. Earl Grey seemed fitting. And it's Earl Grey tea, I think with rose blossoms. So you just pop it open, make yourself some tea, and enjoy. So yes, comment, have a tea with me, and the first person who says it will get sent this in the mail. And you can have a cup of tea and hopefully think about me and all of our wonderful book talks together. So until next time, I will see you guys again on Friday, and I hope this week is going so well for you. And if you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Bye.